All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Here. Mr. Superintendent? Here. Mr. Malachite? Here. Mr. Giuliano?
Here.
Mr. Nuss?
Here.
Mrs. Stahl?
Here.
Mrs. Whitty?
Here.
Mrs. Zilberry? Here. Mrs. D'Agostino?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Would you please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the school building and notice of said meeting sent to the New Jersey Herald and the Star Ledger.
The Sussex-Wantage Regional School District is a responsive, caring, child-centered community. Our mission is to educate each individual to become a confident, competent, lifelong learner and productive, responsible citizen by providing challenging opportunities in a safe environment through a partnership of families, schools, and communities.
Thank you. At this time, we will move on to the report of the Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. I'd like to invite Mr. Schwartz up to the podium to present this month's Students of the Month for Sussex Middle School.
Good evening, Mr. Gall, Mr. D'Agostino, members of our Board of Education, and members of our audience tonight. Our students at Sussex Middle School continue to impress us with their resilience and achievements, both in and outside of the classroom. We are looking forward to watching them embark on new journeys and continued success for the remainder of the school year. Tonight, I will recognize a student from each grade level that has gone above and beyond. The 6th grade student of the month for January is Gavin DeFinis. Gavin does well in all subject areas, but shows a particular interest in English class, where he enjoys reading nonfiction. Gavin, like many other 6th graders, isn't quite sure what he wants to do when he grows up. Right now, he is focused on school and enjoys being a part of our cross-country team. He is looking to continue to explore his passion for running this spring, where he will be joining our track team at SMS. The 6th grade team stated the following when nominating Gavin for the Student of the Month. The 6th grade team proudly selects Gavin DeFinis as our January Student of the Month. Gavin is the epitome of a model school citizen who always follows the rules and is a shining example to his peers. Gavin exhibits exemplary leadership qualities, as he is often observed assisting his peers with transitions and regularly motivating others. His kind heart, hardworking nature, and gentle disposition are character traits which should be highlighted and celebrated. Gavin displays his team player attitude and gets along well with others in all projects, which contributes to the overall culture and climate of the classroom. Gavin's teachers are very proud of this fine young man. Please join me in congratulating Gavin as the 6th grade Student of the Month. Sorry, we're just waiting on the 7th grade student who might be here. I'm going to skip over to the 8th and we'll go back. The 8th grade student of the month for January is Alexandra Antiochus. Alex's favorite class here at SMS is science. Not only does she really enjoy the content they are learning about, but she also enjoys the teacher as well. Outside of school, Alex can be found at Mountain Creek, where she snowboards frequently. Here at SMS, Alex is looking forward to another intramural volleyball season this year. Alex has always had a strong interest in cars and working on cars, something that she has always enjoyed doing with her father. When she gets older, she would like to pursue this passion in a career as a mechanic and someday own a Challenger of her own. The 8th grade team stated the following when recommending Alexandra. Alex is a very hard-working student who always tries her best. She is a kind, conscientious student who works to improve. She is prompt with all of her assignments, she's well respected by her peers, and it is clear that her academics are a priority for her. She does the hard work when no one else is looking. It came as no surprise to me that Alex was selected as the Student of the Month. She's been having an outstanding year, and she has really hit her stride. I am confident that she will be able to find success with anything she pursues as she follows this path. As we say goodbye to Alex at the end of the year, I can tell you that she will be missed by many and has made a positive impact here at SMS. Please join me in congratulating Alex as the 8th grade Student of the Month. The 7th grade Student of the Month for January is Ayanna Green. While this unassuming and reserved young lady can appear to be shy, she is making an impact on our school and those around her. The 7th grade team stated the following when nominating her. She excels in all of her classes. She works extremely hard and shows a high level of responsibility for a 7th grade. Ayanna's teachers do not have to push her to produce high quality work. She is very self-motivated and determined to get excellent grades. Although a very quiet young lady, she is an active participant in partner and group activities. In addition to all of those wonderful attributes, she is an absolute pleasure to have in class. The 7th grade teachers are very proud of her and appreciate her dedication to her schoolwork and her contributions in all of her classes. The teachers are sure that she will continue to be an excellent student as she moves into 8th grade and beyond in high school. Here at SMS, Ayanna enjoys art class and cheerleading. These two passions of hers are things that she looks to pursue in the future. In particular, her passion for art and design is something that she will continue to grow in as she looks to become an interior designer someday. Please join me in congratulating Ayanna as the 7th grade Student of the Month.
Congratulations one more time to all the recipients for doing an outstanding job. Thank you so much. We always encourage parents to stay for the duration of the meeting, but if you did not want to stay, now would be the opportune time to leave.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Take care.
And we have a couple of concise presentations for you tonight. First up is Mrs. Simulacra, Director of Corrective.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Ayanna Green, and I'm the Director of Curriculum here at the Sussex-Wantage Regional School District. I'm here to provide you with a brief overview of our New Jersey Start Strong results as a district. You do have packets included, and this presentation will also be available for the public to view on the district website. So as you are aware, the Department of Ed mandated the Start Strong assessments for students in grades 4 through 8 in the fall of 2021, which satisfied the federal statewide assessment requirements for the 2020-2021 school year. So these assessments were provided in lieu of the NJSLA assessment that typically occurs in the spring of last year. Our students took this brief assessment in October of 2021. The spring NJSLA will resume for this spring upcoming school year. Parents received a hard copy of their individual student reports within the last month. I do think it's important to highlight that this was merely a snapshot assessment, a short assessment to assist educators in evaluating the needs of the students in their classrooms. This short assessment was designed to be completed within 45 to 60 minutes per subject. The best indicator of a child's success is certainly by combining a variety of measures, including grades, work ethic, anecdotal reports by teachers, benchmark assessments, formative assessments, etc. And again, these results that I'm going to report as a district are just one tiny component of the school district and the whole child. Can you guys hear me?
Kind of.
So again, the Start Strong test design. This Start Strong test design was able to be administered within a 45 to 60 minute session. The test design, which allowed for shortened testing time and immediate results, means that Start Strong results must be interpreted and used differently than the NJSLA. So it's not something that can be necessarily compared to a child's NJSLA scores from years prior. They say do not do that. It also does not encourage us as a district to compare reports to other districts within our area or within the state. The Start Strong grade and content alignment is based off the prior year standards. For example, the grade 5 ELA is aligned to a subset of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards for grade 4 ELA. So it was, if you were a grade 5 student, you took the assessment based off grade 4 standards. So I will now review the data for our district. The amount of students that were tested is in the following slide. We had 115 students test for grade 4, 100 for math, 100 for grade 5, 102 for grade 6, 104 for grade 7, 105 for grade 8, with a total of 526 students tested. So the score reports generated a score that fell within one of 3 different support level indicators. More support needed, some support needed, and less support needed. What our levels indicated for our district, for grade 4 ELA, 67% of students were in the categories of needing only some or less support. Grade 5 ELA, 71% needed some or less support. Grade 6 ELA, 61% needed some or less support. Grade 7 ELA, 68% needed only some or less support, and grade 8 ELA, 83% needed some or only less support. In grade 4 mathematics, 65% of students were in the categories of needing only some or less support. Grade 5 math, 49% needed only some or less support. Grade 6 math, 46% needed only some or less support. Grade 7 math, 53% needed only some or less support. And grade 8 math, 64% needed only some or less support. The assessment was also provided to grade 6 for science, grade 6 only, was the only tested area. And 60% of our grade 6 students needed only some or less support. On the next slide, you will see a breakdown of student results of subgroups by support levels for ELA, math, and science. So this just breaks down our results for various subgroups who were identified for our district. And so our notable achievements, which I kind of went over in the previous slides, again, in English language arts for grades 4 through 8, the majority of our students needed only some or less support as opposed to needing more support. For mathematics specifically, in grades 4, 7, and 8, again, the majority of students needed some or less support as opposed to more support. So what does this all mean? What have we done? What are we planning to do? Again, using this data as one of many indicators, some intervention strategies that we have incorporated or plan to incorporate this year or next year are we have additional before and after school sessions to support learning acceleration. We are currently reviewing and enhancing our Tier 1, our Tier 2, and our Tier 3 interventions district-wide. We have, thank you guys for your support with this, we've provided additional professional development days to support instruction as well, and explore more our RTI process to support all students. We're exploring math and science-based professional learning development opportunities. And then providing PLC time or professional learning community time to review the New Jersey Start Strong results, for our individual student results, as well as the other student data that helps support our students. Thank you again for having me. I can't stress enough that this assessment is one minor snapshot of our student achievement. Although this information is and will be helpful for curriculum planning and to facilitate conversations between parents and educators, student success is highly individualized and should be measured by multiple indicators as it is within our district. Thank you again, and please feel free to call or email me with any questions or concerns. And as I said before, this presentation will be also made available on our district website. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. One of the comments that you made, it says districts should not compare any individual student, school, or district start data to any state level data for Start Strong, nor should comparisons be made to any NJSLA data. What is the purpose of having this if, like, is it that they don't feel that all the districts are competent to?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't make sense.
So the reason the Department of Ed released that statement was that we need to take into account the year and a half that we just went through and that we're still currently going through. And we cannot be compared to another school that was 100% virtual when we were back in person for 50% of the time. So it highly discourages comparing to other statewide data. But that's something that us as a curriculum consortium have reached out to the state about, like, so what can we compare this to? So I understand that question and concern, but it was so different
No,
in
that makes
different
sense.
parts.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And next up, Mrs. Renfro will introduce our auditing firm.
Thank you, Mr. Goff. I'm here tonight to present the 2020-2021 audit report is Ms. Heidi Weller from the Savassi. Welcome, Heidi. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Christina should have handed out a 3-page summary of the financial results, and I will go over that. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have as I go along. So at the top of the page, we have the general fund. On the first page, this is the main operating fund of the district where the bulk of the instruction, administrative, transportation, support services, capital outlay, custodial and maintenance expenses are recorded. The general fund is supported by 3 different types of revenue: local, state, and federal. The local revenue is principally your local tax levy. The final budget is $16.996 million. Actual revenue for that, $16.923 million. A shortfall of a little less than $73,000, and that shortfall was due to a shortfall in tuition revenue of $24,000, transportation fees of $22,720, and unrestricted miscellaneous revenue of $47,000, offset by restricted miscellaneous revenue of $21,000. Then we also have, supporting the general fund budget, state aid or state revenue. The final budget was $6.7 million. The actual came in at $7.044 million. An excess of $309,000, and that excess was solely due to an excess in extraordinary aid for special education costs. And we have federal revenue budgeted at a little less than $73,000, actual $80.5, and then we had an excess in revenue of $7,500, and that's due to Medicaid reimbursement percent. So overall, Revenue had an excess of a little under 244,000. Then we have the expenditures or the appropriations. The final budget including the prior encumbrances, which are purchase orders placed for goods or services not rendered at the end of the year. So they get added into the next year's budget. So the final budget, adopted budget including those encumbrances, $26.756 million. Actual expenditures, $22.058 million. Unexpended balances, a little under $4.7 million. Included in that is the current year-end encumbrances of $1.4 million. So truly unexpended balances were $3.259 million. Then of always of importance is the fund balance. The fund balance began the year with a little under $707 million. So fund balance utilized in the 21 budget, $1.1 million, liquidated the prior encumbrances of $374,000, withdrew brought by the budget process and board withdrawal, $1.466 million from the capital reserve. Then we add in the excess in revenue of $243,000 and unexpended budget balances of $4.7 million, and the year-end fund balance in the general fund, $8.991 million. If you'd be kind enough to turn to the second page, I always like to go over the different components of general fund balance, because some of those funds are set aside or restricted for specific purposes. So our first item of restricted general fund balance is excess surplus. We had calculated current year excess surplus of $2.07 million, so that will be required to be used in the fiscal year 23 budget. The prior excess surplus was $2.366 million, using that in the fiscal year 22 budget. The capital reserve has $1.169 million. The capital reserve can be used for the local share of projects in the long-range facilities plan. Always good to have money in capital reserve. Sometimes it's difficult to do capital projects within the 2% budget increase, capital levy increase. Then the district established a maintenance reserve for $250,000, which was very wise. A lot of districts have been establishing them over the last year or so, especially with COVID expenses. The maintenance reserve can be used for projects in the comprehensive maintenance plan. It's the easiest reserve to withdraw monies from, just by board resolution. Then as part of GASB 84 implementation, the unemployment compensation reserve, which used to be reported in a separate fiduciary fund, became part of the general fund. That can be used for unemployment claims. It ended the year with a little over $500,000. Then we have $1.4 million of encumbrances. Those are purchase orders that are dated 6/30/21 or prior for items that were ordered, but the goods weren't received, so the services weren't rendered by the end of the year. So like I said previously, what will happen is they get added in the fiscal year 22 budget. That can vary year to year due to the timing of the purchase orders and projects going on. And then we have $1.196 million unassigned, and that's at the max. If you'd be kind enough to turn to the third page, I'll go over the calculation of excess surplus. It's a mathematical calculation required by the Department of Education to determine if you have any excess surplus. So basically, you take the general fund expenditures for the year, the $22.058 million, times 4%. There was legislation passed during fiscal year 22, which allowed the amount of unassigned fund balance to go from 2 to 4%, calculated at 6/30/21 and 6/30/22, with the presumption at the end of fiscal year 23, it will go back to 2%, assuming there's no further legislation. So that calculated amount was $882,000. Then the Department of Education allows you, if you have any excess extraordinary aid, to add that amount of excess extraordinary aid over that budgeted to the calculated 4% amount. So if you take the $882,000 and $314,000, you come up with a maximum unassigned of $1.196 million. Then it's simply another mathematical calculation where you take your total fund balance for general fund of the 8.991 million and subtract out the money that's been set aside or restricted for specific purposes, that being the encumbrances, the excess surplus for use in the 22 budget, your various reserves, maintenance, unemployment, and capital, and you come down to a calculated amount, which is 3.267 million. So if that amount is higher than the maximum, you have excess surplus. So your excess calculated excess surplus at the end of 21 is the 2.070 million. So you'll be using that in the 23 budget. So overall, strong finance in the general fund. You very wisely have money in your capital and maintenance reserves, and you have the maximum unassigned. If you'd be kind enough to turn back to the very first page, I'd like to go over a little bit more information. So about 2/3 down the page, you have enterprise funds. Enterprise funds are supposed to act like a business and be self-supporting. You have two of them. You have both the food service fund, which is the cafeteria, and you have the care program. The food service fund has something called net position, which is very similar to fund balance. That decreased slightly by 11,445 to 121,676 during fiscal year 21, and that was due to the fact that there was a decrease in daily sales, just like all the other school districts were collecting money and serving meals, where all the students were eligible to receive a free meal under the seamless summer option. You received federal and state reimbursements for that. So there was obviously an increase in that, and there was a slight decrease in operating expenses. The next enterprise fund is the care program. That decreased by 15,000 to 106,542. Just like similar care programs, the after school and preschool, before school programs, suffered during COVID-19, as the availability to provide that to students throughout the year wasn't the same as in a pre-COVID year. So there was a decrease in child care fees that was not offset by a decrease in operating expenses. But I think both of those still have a strong financial position at the end of the year despite their decrease for the year. Then you have three different types of long-term liabilities, or actually two. You have no bonded debt or capital leases at 6/30/21. You have a little less than 692,000 in compensated absences payable, which is a calculation of the estimate of the sick and vacation time that's due to the staff. So that's just the total estimate, but of course you only budget and pay out the amount that you expect for the retirees in any particular budget year. And then you have 4.970 in the net pension liability in the PR's pension system. That pension system covers secretaries, the aides, custodians, and if you had any bus drivers. So just like compensated absences payable, you have an amount, in this case, a bill from the Division of Pensions, which tells you how much you have to pay each year. Can I answer any questions on the finances? Then I'm going to move along to, if you happen to have a little gray book, the Auditor's Management Report. If you could kindly turn to the very last page. Overall, a very good report. There's two minor recommendations. The records were in excellent condition. It's a pleasure working with Christine and her staff. It's clear to see that they take great pride in their work and wanting to do the job. The first recommendation has to do with the fact that there was a transfer to certain capital outlay line items that County Superintendent wasn't approval wasn't obtained for. There was some confusion during the year as to which line items needed approval. And then the second one has to do with a summary of the care program billing, collections, cancellations, and receivables being reconciled with the detail records being reconciled with the district records. So those are minor points. Mrs. Riker shared the corrective action plan with me, and I believe that that should address them. We always include a couple suggestions, and that would be on pages 8 and 9. The suggestions has to do with the surety bond coverage for the business administrator. The position of the treasurer school monies has changed over time, where a lot of the duties that the treasurer school monies, when that position was first established are now taken over by the business administrator. So it's not a requirement, we just suggest that the level of the business administrator's bond be the same as the treasurer's. Then the unemployment trust compensation, the payroll service provider that the district uses turns over the entire amount of the unemployment withholdings to the state. So it's just a question of contacting them and making sure that the balance in there gets turned back over. Then we include a couple of suggestions, which we've done to all of our clients. This one on GASB 87, the GASB sets all the accounting standards for the district. It's just a heads up that GASB 87 will be effective for fiscal year 22 on leases, and that will change the presentation of leases in the report. It will not have any impact on your day-to-day financial operations. The next one on page 9 has to do with COVID-19 federal funding. All the districts in the state received a lot of federal funding, not that we had any concerns with the federal funding, the way that we expended or the way it was accounted for in the records, but it's very likely that some of the districts will have either a desk review or the state will come out, and when they come out and audit, they're very strict. So it's just to make sure that you have all the policies in place, you follow all the procurement guidelines, because sometimes the federal procurement requirements are stricter than state, and sometimes the state is stricter than federal. And then just making sure that you use the correct account numbers. Like I said, we didn't have any concerns with how the money was spent in fiscal year 21. And then the final item has to do with sick and vacation leave. We're not attorneys, but there has been, the comptroller has come out and audited municipalities on this, and there's been some articles in the paper with respect to sick and vacation leave. Principally, it has to do with if any of the municipalities or the districts were allowing for sick buyback. So we're just suggesting that you contact your attorney and have him take a look and make sure that you're in accordance with those statutes. But overall, a very good audit, 2 minor recommendations, records in excellent condition. Glad to answer any questions anyone might have. Yes.
Yeah, I have a quick question. How are you involved, and I'm not quite sure, but with regards to the unemployment, we have a situation, and I'm gonna be questioning it, but if we have people that applied for unemployment during COVID and they got paid and they weren't qualified, is that involved in your audit at all or no?
No, it's not. You'd have to take that up with the Department of Home Workforce Development. I have heard about that. That's unfortunate.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Gall. I just want to make the public aware of a feasibility study that was in the back, which will be posted on the website if it's not already. The board is in a very preliminary stages of speaking with Lafayette about the potential of sharing Mr. Gall as a superintendent. What we would do is have a full-time principal to replace him in the Lawrence School, and then Mr. Gall would be in Lafayette about a third of the time, and they'd pay a third of his salary. Again, it's the very preliminary stages. The county superintendent has not approved anything or even really looked at it yet. What we do need to do, if we would like to move forward as a board, is have a formal vote to move forward with the process and explore it. So that being said, I would like to make a motion to move forward with the process of sharing Mr. Gall potentially with Lafayette. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Nuss. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Mr. Nutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Ms. DeWall Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Juliana,
Yes.
Mrs. Stahl,
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty,
Yes.
and Mrs. O'Barry. Yeah. Motion carries.
Thank you. At this time, we will move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district. Are there any audience remarks? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the board secretary certification.
Pursuant to NJAC 6A 23A-16.1023, I certify that as of December 31st, 2021, no line item account has encumbrances and expenditures which in total exceed the line item appropriation in violation of NJAC 6A 23A-16.10.
Thank you. At this time, we will move on to the approval of board minutes for December 16th, 2021.
No.
I'm sorry.
Are you doing my cross off?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, thank you. No problem. So just for December 16th, 2021, regular session, approval of board minutes, looking for a motion, please.
No motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Juliana,
Yes.
Mrs. Stahl,
Abstain.
Mrs. Chacchini,
Yeah.
Mrs. Cooper Kittyhead,
Yes.
Ms. Wall Malafite. Yes. Mr. Nuss,
I'll abstain, I was absent.
Mrs. Whitty,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry,
Yeah.
Mr. D'Agostino.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
At this time, we are going to move into a short executive session on agenda items. It'll be approximately what? Approximately 20 minutes. Can I get a resolution, please, Mr. Chair?
Whereas pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12B, the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education may exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting at which the board discusses any of the matters described at NJSA 10-4-12B 1-9. Now therefore be it resolved that the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education shall enter into closed session to discuss legal matters and agenda items. Now therefore be it further resolved by the Sussex-Wantage Regional Board of Education that pursuant to NJSA 10-4-13B, the time when and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public is when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to enter executive session.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Looking for a second. Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Move on to the presentation of agenda items. Also, before I forget, I would like to congratulate Ms. Dwal Malafite on graduating from paramedic school, which was obviously part of the cause for us changing the dates of the meetings so she could participate and go to school. And now she is done with school, right? So. Well, congratulations, Ms. Dwal Malafite, and thanks for sticking through it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, presentation of agenda.
Under personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 26.
Looking for a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Chipini?
Yes.
Ms. Wall Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion
Under policy, I'd like to move items 1 and 2.
Looking for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
Who made the first motion?
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Chipini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Ms. Wall Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry? Yes. Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under finance, I'd like to move items 1 through 17.
I'll motion.
Thank you. Looking for a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on finance?
Is that Mrs. Stahl?
Yes. All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Chipini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Ms. Dual Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
And Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under special services, I'd like to move items 1 through 8.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Nuss. Looking for a second. Thank you, Mrs. Cooper Trinidad. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Chipini?
Yes.
Ms. Dual Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under curriculum, I'd like to move item number 1.
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Stahl. Looking for a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Ms. Dual Malafite?
Yes.
Mrs. Chipini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
And Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Referring to the addendum under personnel, I'd like to move items 1 through 3.
Looking for a motion, please.
Motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on personnel on the addendum? Roll call, please.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Chipini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Ms. Dual Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
And Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And under policy on the addendum, I'd like to move items 1 through 3.
Looking for a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on policy? I would just like to, number one, thank Mr. Gall for your leadership on extracurricular activities. I personally feel like we shouldn't discriminate against kids based off of their vaccination status. And so pending the vote, I'm glad to see that all kids will be able to participate. And I think that was a great decision, Mr. Gall. So thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Dual Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Chipini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes on 1 and 2. I abstain on number 3.
Mrs. Zobarry?
Yes.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under special services on the addendum, I'd like to move items 1 through 5.
Looking for a motion? Thank you. Looking for a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on special services on the addendum? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Zobarry?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mrs. Chakidi?
Yes.
Ms. Wall Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
And Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And under curriculum on the addendum, I'd like to move item number 1.
Looking for a motion.
Motion.
Thank you. Looking for a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Ms. Wall Malafite?
Yes.
Mrs. Chakidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper Trinidad?
Yes.
Mr. Juliano?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Zobarry?
Yes.
And Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, we will move on to unfinished business. Does anyone on the board have any unfinished business they would like to discuss?
I do.
Yes, Mr. Nuss.
So, we have a bunch of new board members here, and I guess one of the things that I want to make sure never happens, if possible, to parents or taxpayers, is that I don't know how we would even address it, and I'm going to ask our attorney, but last year, well, I finished my term in December of 2020. So I was a taxpayer in 21. And I went to a couple meetings, and I brought up issues I had with the unemployment situation here in the district. And the teachers union had the gall, not Mr. Gall, had the nerve to have their attorney send me, a taxpayer, a letter here, threatening to sue me for things that I said that were in the newspaper. The odd part was, it was addressed to me, a taxpayer, and to Mr. Gold. So, as a taxpayer, I really don't give a shit what a parent has to say when they want to say it. And the teachers union should have no mind in complaining about it. So I don't know if any of you are here on the board that are new know about it, but I have a problem with it as a taxpayer. So I'm back on the board, and I'll run on this board until my kids graduate for college to make sure parents have a right to say what they want to say. And I kind of want to open this discussion up here because I want to know how everyone else feels about it. Because with all the shit that's going on,
Mr. Nuss.
I'm sorry.
Not to use Prepaid.
it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. So I apologize. With all the stuff going on, to think that a parent would have to worry about what they're questioning, that they have to worry about a lawsuit, potential lawsuit, I don't understand. And I'm wondering what the other people would think here. Because we don't have any parents in this audience. Why would they come if they have to worry about it? So I want to open it up for discussion.
What are they suing you for?
No,
What are they threatening to sue you for?
defamation per se,
Defamation.
I believe.
That's interesting.
I would be happy, if you weren't on the board, or maybe you don't have a letter, be happy to share it with you all. But it's something that needs to be addressed. And I don't know as a taxpayer, I was a taxpayer. Why would Mr. Gall and myself be threatened for questioning unemployment? And now we're going to go into that because Christina was kind enough to put this unemployment situation in writing for me to look at. So 116 people filed for unemployment claims during COVID, right? It says we prepared and sent to the NJDOL 156 documents for those 116 people. 67 people were paid unemployment by the state, and it was billed to Sussex-Wantage. Now, I know we didn't pay it, correct, Christina? My question is, have we heard anything from the state? Because when did we start seeing these issues come in July of 20?
That is correct, no, we did not.
So,
We've gotten other documents, but we have not heard a response to the letters that I detailed out in that packet, as well as the letter from our attorney. And in the same, we have not heard anything about our non-payment of the bills either.
right, well, everyone has, for the people that collected, they all, has anyone paid their money back to the state, or we don't know?
I would say the answer to that is no. No one that, not to my knowledge, has anybody that's on the list that I gave you that I know we were billed for. If they, we would have been advised if they were going after somebody, because then we would have seen subsequent credit. In the past, many years back, I disputed 3 people. I got an immediate credit, and then they fought to get the money back from the people. I didn't have to wait till they got the money back for the credit. I have not received any credit, so that leads me to believe that none of these cases are being looked at as to their validity or amount.
So, I'm curious, does anyone else think there's an issue with this?
Yeah, Mr. Nuss, I support wholeheartedly freedom of speech for our board, for the union, for everybody. I think as a board member, certainly there's things that you cannot say, but as you stated, you're a member of the public at the time. And I share the same concern that members of the public would feel threatened to come forward. That's certainly not, I don't want them to feel threatened by us. I don't want them to feel threatened by anybody. So, you know, I'm sorry that you went through that personally.
Is this on?
I believe so.
Can you hear me?
Sort of.
It is really hard to keep, anyway. To answer or provide a response, some information to you, you are right. The members of public, parents, community members, neighbors have the right to come and make a statement as to matters of general concern to the board and matters on the agenda, which may include the use and spending of public funds. You know, members of the public, when they do approach the podium, do have to be mindful of what they say, but that's not to say that what you commented on was anything improper. I can't speak to the motivations of the individuals who drafted that letter, the rationale behind it. But, you know, I agree with your sentiment that members of the public should not feel as if they could not approach the podium. You know, the First Amendment does offer a lot of protection in what can be stated at public meetings, while the Board of Education has some ability to restrain speech that is offensive, for instance. For the most part, and you, especially members who've been on the board for a while, you've been here in meetings when, whether it's staff members, parents, community members, come and express disagreement. Sometimes it's difficult to hear, but that is their right. So I agree with you, Mr. Nelson, that members of the community should not feel afraid in approaching the board. In fact, in sitting here in many meetings, I know the board is truly appreciative of the feedback that is received, whether it's to praise the district or to criticize the district, because that's the information that the board members need to help it govern and work with administration in policy making and other matters. So just to kind of clarify and to confirm, you're absolutely right, members of the public have the right to speak on many matters, and the limitations on the First Amendment, they're few.
So I guess, going back to my question, how can you make, I guess there's no way to make people feel safe to come and voice their mind?
Well, they also retain their own private rights too, to go to local authorities, to retain their own attorneys, and to take
You
their
know,
own action.
you should not be put as a public in a position to have to go get an attorney because you're questioning something. So, I mean, honestly, I'll run for the Board of Ed for the next 20 years, so I don't have to be a member
And, you
of
know,
the public.
you brought your concerns forward to the board. Other members of the public can similarly share their concerns or, you know, with the Board of Education, members of administration, if they feel that there's something that's preventing them or causing them to feel uncomfortable coming to the meeting, and it's something that it's within the board's jurisdiction, right? 'Cause the board is limited to, it's not a police force, right? It's limited, but if it's something within its own ability to address, to make sure that members of the public feel more comfortable, right? So members of the public should feel comfortable in sharing that information as well, as you did, to bring it to the board's attention, members of administration, so if it's something that they can address, they can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nuss. Is there any other?
And I apologize for my profanity, but it's been very frustrating.
Thank you, Mr. Nuss. Any other unfinished business? I just have one item. A couple years ago, as everyone knows, because it was in the eyes of the public, there was policy 5756, which is the transgender policy. And since those, I would say, contentious meetings that we had, it's been a concern among board members, new and old, and also community members. And I think the main concern is how it's ever evolving, ever changing, the law. I think that in my discussions with many members of this current board, they also have concerns where it lies in the policy. And so while we have to follow the law, obviously, and abide by the law, there is no law that requires us to keep a policy, that specific policy on the books. And so we could have discussion after the motion, but I would like to make a motion to rescind policy 5756, which is our school's transgender policy. And I would look for a second, please.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Woody. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll look for a roll call, please.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Yes.
Mrs. Whitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Chikini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper-Trinidad?
Yes.
Mr. Wall-Malafite?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mrs. Stahl?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Barry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Any other unfinished business? All right, moving on to new business. Does the board have any new business they would like to discuss?
I would like to go back to the unfinished business.
Sure.
And just have to reiterate once again that the law will be followed.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And Mr. Gall, I know you agree with that.
Absolutely, you strive to follow the law.
Yes, thank you. Now on to new business. Any new business? Seeing none, we will move on to audience remarks. Members of the audience are invited to make brief comments about items on this agenda and matters of interest to the district. Are there any audience remarks?
Sparta, Wantage, New Jersey. I just, Ken, to answer your question, parents don't come to Board of Ed meetings because they bring up problems, obviously. They're discussed, and then nothing's done about it. Like, that's just, it's a very black and white situation. Like, parents come, they say something, I'll use my child as an example. My son was in kindergarten, we had a substitute bus driver, the lights weren't working on the bus, my son almost got hit by a car, like whole big ordeal. Get in touch with transportation and I'm told, we can't reverse the bus route. My child almost got hit by a car. And that's the answer I get. And I've given multiple avenues, options, stuff like that, that I thought, well, hey, can we flip it going the opposite way so he doesn't have to cross over the road? People fly on my road, it connects to New York State. So parents don't come here because they feel like they're wasting their time, honestly. And it sounds terrible, but it's true, and I've talked to other parents about it. They're like, I don't have time to go, express my concerns or whatever, I'll just email the teacher. And then they email the teacher and they don't get what they want, and then, they have to, email Mr. Gall or CC other people that are involved in the situation. Like, I'll be the person to admit, I do it, but parents aren't gonna come here because they just feel this is a waste. And I have to say thank you for removing the transgender policy, because my husband and I came and spoke about it 3 years ago, and now all of a sudden it's getting removed. So thank you for, doing that. It did take 3 years, but I guess it's better than nothing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other audience remarks? Seeing none, we do not have a need for a second executive session, so I will look for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mrs. Stahl. Thank you, Mrs. Cooper. Trinidad, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, have a good night, everybody.